Ready?
Hi, we're the full cabin team, and I'm Lucas.
My name is Mark.
I'm Rebecca.
So, we're going to start off with a little problem introduction and what we're hoping to solve as we go along with this project. So, as you can see, we've inherited a design already, and there are many other designs as you can see around the room and in the previous reports. And so our first step is going to be attempting to alter aerodynamics as well as going through what has already been done in past years. Like this one, we think it's a nice design, but not necessarily aerodynamic in its completion. And so it was suggested to us that we bring in an aerospace engineer to help us run some tests and determine what would be the best aerodynamic specifications to get like the lowest drag coefficient as it flies through the air. So next, we will be attempting to work on the interior. This is a CAD drawing of the Heathrow airport pod design. And so this is just a show of something what we are hoping to achieve with multiple seats and that can seat 4 to 6 people as well and be comfortable and have room for handicap facilities as well. We're going to be focusing on, to get the problem started as well, we have to focus on what's a quarter scale. We hear quarter scale all over the place, but a quarter scale of what? And so that's one thing we really need to determine is to find what scale is comfortable, what can fit the most people, how it will fit them, such as being wide enough for wheelchairs to go through, as well as taller people. The one we have here, it's called full scale, and it's kind of close, but some spots don't leave room for other areas, and maybe taller people as well. Next, a lot of what we're doing is going to be interaction. There's going to be multiple interaction between people in the cabin and the station, as well as people at the station. And so we're going to be working to organize how all those things interact together and sort of upgrade them as well as bring some new ideas. And finally, we're going to be covering safety. Safety is another interaction aspect of how people interact safely with the device or the cabin or at the station. They're out of harm's way, things like that. And that sort of goes into my next slide, which is in a new edition. Oh, I'm going to jump to this slide. A new edition, which is a station mechanism. So as of now, if the thing pulls up to a station, it's just going to be depending on the brake system or the suspension system to keep it from moving. And so I'm hoping to come up with design a simple mechanism that will be stuck at the base of the station, which basically it pulls up and then this thing will clamp onto the bottom, prevent sway, keep it safe. You can get on and off just as they're saying it has to be flush with the station. This will be able to keep it from moving at all. It also depends on the station design for if it comes into the middle of the station, there's platforms on each side, that could add another level of safety to it. And so it's going to be, my initial idea was simple, like a crane, or not a crane, like this is a backhoe, I think, and it just simple hydraulic collapse as it pulls up, and then as it pulls away, it just lets go and it goes on its way. Nothing too interactive. This also would require a change to the cabin, something on the bottom that it can easily hold onto and grip onto without changing the dynamics of the cabin too much as well. And so now we'll go back to our goals and objectives. So our initial goal, which we inherited, is to finish that. The Swedish team worked on that over the summer with the help of Caleb, who you've seen around. And so initially we started to once we took over, we bondoed it. If you didn't know, it's like a putty that will harden once you add a catalyst. That's how they got their shape. And so over the weekend, we finished bondoed, sanding, and put the primer on. And we'll be finishing up the paint job later. Next, we'll be creating the cabins to go with the small scale model. So once we determine the size and scale that we need, we can shrink it down and create the models to go on that, as well as a interior and exterior view, or those two that will go on the model. We'll make our own little model that will be sort of like a hinge, to where it will cut in half and you can open it up and see how the inside works. We will attempt to build a small scale version of the docking mechanism I'm deciding on, and that could ultimately go with the small scale model. And if I could work with the controls team to have basically where it pulls up, closes, let goes, and it continues on its way once it comes down to the ground. We would also like to make the interior improvements as I stated earlier. just to make it roomy, comfortable. As other teams were saying, you want it to be something you're willing to pay for, not something that looks shabby. And finally, safety for passengers is one of the most important features that we want to keep going and make it safe for, as they take their trip.
So this was last year's design. As you can see here is the exterior design of it. On to the left is the frame, and then right here on the bottom is the interior, which you can see over there. And what it has is foldable chairs that enables wheelchair accessibility. But one thing we want to consider is bicycle, having a place to add your bicycle in it. So that's one improvement from this design. Also, their frame wasn't exactly structured based on their exterior design, so we want to improve on the frame as well. And then this was this past summer's design of the cabin, which is in current progress. To the right is the interior of their rendering, but some improvements such as their foldable chairs. I mean, it's spacious, so there's no access for wheelchairs. Also, it won't be as roomy in there as it looks, so that's another improvement on. So this is our initial ideas. One thing is a redesign of the window placement. I believe that with that design, you can't really see ahead of you, so maybe we want to consider redesign of the windows. Another thing is the mechanism of the doors. We want to start designing our own so that we can show it off to how it will work. We want to use the current design of the aerodynamics, so we want to keep the design but change it just a little bit. As for the interior, we want to make sure it's wheelchair accessible, so we're gonna keep the folded chairs, but we want to make some improvements. We want to have some kind of lock mechanism for the wheelchair. We want to add some bike hooks so that they can just hang it on without moving. Also, the HVAC system, we want to incorporate the interior to that, since past designs didn't include, so we want to add that also.
So for added safety features, we're looking more at handicapable accessibility. In this picture, you can see that there's either hooks that attach to the wheelchair, which is like what the current VTA buses or light rails have kind of right now. There's the option of straps as well, or a full swing over safety belt. This is the model of the current cabin that they have right there. There is always the option for that gap where the station and the cabin will meet. There's the option of a person falling, tripping because they're not picking up their feet, and I'm guilty of doing that many times. So we need to really look at how are we going to cover that gap. Is there going to be a ramp? Is the locking mechanism for the station going to cover that gap? And if that happens, is there going to be a step, and how large does it have to be? We want to make sure we look at if it's going to be flush, if there's going to be flush to the level of the station. So we need to keep that in a factor as well. So right now we need to complete the current cabin that the Swedish students had completed. There's the coloring options. They have designated colors of the green and gray. Right now the green will be going from the front panels up the top panel into the back. And then they have a gray that they would like to add to the bottom. We were hoping that Caleb would finish his lift so that way we could have access to the bottom, but I don't actually see a lift, so looks like we might be doing that as well. But there's definitely needed to be Bondo work on the bottom of the cabin, and also to create a smoother surface, because right now it's just completely jagged between the bottom and the side. And it was really important to the Swedish students when we were conversing over with them for the maybe the past week, that they would like us to keep that sway motion that's going to be designed on the very bottom, because they felt like it would be more, I guess,
I think the word they use.
yeah, I can't remember the word is. They wanted a flow basically to make it seem like it's almost flying in a sense. So we would like to, if we were to keep, we are going to keep the actual model, we would like to keep it to the standards that they wanted. And so some of the challenges that we're going to be facing is the shape of the cabin. We don't actually know if that's full scale of their cabin, because if you stand up close to it, it seems like your heads are going to touch the ceiling of it. So we don't know if that's just like a 90% full scale, or if it's going to be, if it's a tad smaller. There's also that we have to take and measure the aerodynamics for the cabin. So there is a possible change in shape there as well. Fabricating the interior of the model, we wanted to look at basically creature comforts. Are you going to have enough room to sit? Are people with chairs or, crutches or other walking devices, are they going to feel comfortable as well? And then there's the interfacing between the cabin and the station. Like I said before, is it going to be level to each other, or is there going to be a little bit of a height difference? Are we going to need to implement the ramp? And then we also have integrating the safety features and the cabin features. So along with those creature comforts, we have to make them completely comfortable to everybody. And so whether that means, we have separate cabins for wheelchair accessibility, like Disney kind of does. They have where they'll take their certain cabins or their rides, they'll take them off and they'll switch them out with handy-capable rider mobility. Okay. So are we going to do something like that where we have designated pods or cabins? Then there's the optimization of the station, and we're going to see how people are going to basically interface with the cabin and the station, whether they're going to use an app or they're going to use a tablet that's stationed on the within the station, so that people can just come up and ask for a pod, or with the app if people can schedule a pod to be here at this time when we want it. And so a deliverable, we need to complete the full scale. That's something so that way we can show for the Makers Fair, and just have, when guests come in, we have a full scale that's completed and looks nice. There's also the 1/4 scale cabin, which can show the interior. So basically it's going to be maybe half or the full thing, so that way people can visualize what they're going to be sitting in. And then the 2/4 scale cabin shells that will be used for the whole project, that will basically clamp on, and we might add in the interior as well. And then a functioning 4 scale mechanism as well, which Mark and Lucas will probably be working on for their project for mechatronics class.
Okay, so as of now, I'm the team leader for the group, and my main focus will be on the mechanical docking device, as well as other station optimizations and interactions.
I will be focusing on the interior and exterior, such as the mechanisms of the seats, the doors, and
I'm going to be looking at the cabin safety, making sure that it's regulations with codes of cities or other transportation systems, and then basically the interfacing between the cabin and the station for people use.
That's everything. Thank you.
any questions?
So do you know what kind of drag, say, this cabin would have at 25 or 30 miles an hour